So, friends, we are going to have a very brief but useful exercise on the past, on the uses of past perfect tense. As you can see, if there are two actions taking place in the past, one has to take place first, isn't it? And then the second. For the first action, we use the past perfect, and second action, we use the simple past. So that is the sequence of tenses when we speak about the past perfect tense. So let us take sentence by sentence or test frame by test frame and see how the correct form of the verbs are to be used in these test frames. Alright? So let's see. By the time we reached hospital, there is. So you have two verbs here, reach and die. Reach and die. Which is the first action? Reaching the hospital or dying. The first act is died. It's dead by the time we reach. So second action means the first action here is, of course, in the second part of the sentence, we use the past perfect. So they had died. Had died. Had died by the time we reached. Isn't it? By the time we reached the hospital, they had died. So they had died is the first action. And by the time we reached, that is second action. Sentence. And let's say the second sentence. He had when we leave and call. So you see, he had left. He had left when we called him. When we called him. So calling is the second action. Before that he had already left. So we use the past perfect. Right. So third test frame we have can do and bombard. Let's see which is the first action. Before we the people bombarded the city. Understand? So which is the first action? The people had bombarded. The people had bombarded the city. When? Before we could do anything. Before we could do anything. Could do. That is the past tense. Can do is the present tense, could do is the past tense. So before we could do anything, the people had bombarded the city. Policemen could not do anything, army also. Because before that the thing had been already done. Alright. Next, fourth test frame we have turn, look, disappear. So you have three verbs here. Let's see. We and they. So which is the first action? We turned and looked back. They had disappeared. Maybe some beings from the other world. So we can say we turned and looked. Then what happened? Before that had disappeared. They had disappeared. As if there were some beings from the other world. Fifth test frame. 7 people before we fall and can say. So that is 7 people. What happened before means first action. 7 people had fallen in a pit before we could save. We could save. So the first action here is had fallen. Therefore you use that past perfect tense. You are clear? The test frames are clear, I think. Right? Okay. Sixth test frame. You have got here and here. And what is it? People, they are close even before they. So before action, first action. That means the people had torn their clothes even before they heard the bad news. So even before hearing the bad news, they started tearing their clothes. Maybe in anger or maybe in sorrow that they could not hold in their mind. such things can happen. You remember, no? The story of Job, you remember. When he heard the story, means when he heard the bad news about, even before he heard, somebody had just told them some idea he had, he started tearing off his clothes. That is because of his great sorrow. He could not hold it in his hands. Yes. And then he got, sometimes you can see now teachers, they throw the textbook and pen, pencil, everything, because they could not control their anger. Isn't it? Yes. But we don't have such teachers these days. There are good old days, stories of good old days. Yes. Okay. Many, next seventh testimony, many this place before we. So that means the first action is visit. The second action is go. So we will say, before we went there, what happened? Many had visited. Many had visited. So this is the second act, first action. Eighth, again many, and you are going to take and hear. So first action is before, and then this is the first action. So many had taken. Many had taken to Gandhian path before they heard about the Mahatma. Even before hearing about the Mahatma, they had taken the Gandhian path. So that's great, isn't it? Yes. Because of the Mahatma's attraction. So his teachings were such that you would follow him even before knowing him, or even before having any personal contact with him. Okay, ninth one, very few attempted to. So very few had attempted this. Very few had attempted this before the Pandavas did this. That is understood. What is that? What is some say wonderful deeds? Some wonderful deeds. You know about Pandavas, isn't it? So some wonderful deeds, and we need not bother about that. Now think about all the times. So very few had attempted this before the Pandavas did this. Or Pandavas attempted this. Instead of that, we can say did this. All right, next one, 10th one, the casket story. Tell. So this before Shakespeare. So that is action before is past perfect. The casket story had been, that is passive there, had been told many times. Past perfect, passive. We have already seen that. So the casket story had been told many times before Shakespeare told it. Told it. Okay, see. Now in our 11th one, when the station, the train, that is the standard classic example for past perfect. When we reached, so that is the first action, second action, then the train had left. That is the first action. We were a bit late. 12. Before anyone, here spelling mistake, anyone could do anything, he passed away. Before anyone could do anything, he had passed away. He had passed away. So we tried our best. We took all the doctors. Some doctors we got from outside India, from abroad. Still he could not. He had died. By the time he died. Yes. 13. Since he had no one here, he decided. Since he had no one here, he decided to go away. Is that correct? Which is the first action? he decided to go away or he had had. Which is the first action? The first one is he had decided. Isn't it? He had decided early. He had decided to go away. Why? Since he had no one here. Since he had no one here, he had decided to go away. Isn't it? Since he had no one here, that is a fact. So before that, he knew that, so he had decided to go away. Right? Yes. And now the 14, God knew it. God had known. God had known. That is knowledge, no? He knew early that Adam would eat. That Adam would eat. So that is past tense of will eat. So here God had known that Adam would eat the fruit. God had known earlier, because he had got knowledge before about everybody. So God had known that Adam would eat the fruits. See that? And then the last one, who had told you? Sorry, who told you? Isn't it? That is presently, who told you that they had left? Who told you that they had left? So this is a question, and naturally what will happen? They had left, somebody had it. So the questioner is asking the question, who told you? Who told you that they had left? They are still there according to this man. Understand? So if you go through this test, friends, you will be, now this is like what do you find this? It is a board flooded with words. But if you look at, take one by one, then it becomes easy. You can see now, by the time we reached the hospital, they had died. They had died with the first action. He had left when we called him. So he had left. That is, when we called him, first action is leaving. Before we could do anything, the people had bombarded. First action is had bombarded. We turned and looked back, they had disappeared. First action is disappearing. All the three actions take place in the past. 7 people had fallen before we could save. We tried to save, but nothing happened because they had already fallen. This is the first action. People had torn their clothes even before they had bad news. The first action is tearing. Many had visited this place before we went. So many had visited this place. We went there only after that. Then next one. Many had taken to Gandhian bath before they heard about them. So even before hearing, they took. First action is taken. Isn't it? Very few had attempted this before the Pandavas did. So that is a very strange or very difficult situation or difficult solution, so a difficult problem to solve. So many have attempted this before. Very few had attempted this before the Pandavas did, because very few, even they did not want to attempt it, because they knew that sure failure. It would be end in sure failure. Yes, then the casket story had been told. Had been told is passive voice. Past perfect passive voice. Had been told. So you be on your guard. Sometimes you will find this 3 lines like this to complete. Then you will have there are only 2 lines now. Think in this way. There is a possibility that it could be a passive. So the casket story had been told many times before Shakespeare told it. Understand? Before Shakespeare told it. And then when we reached the station, the train had left. As I told you, a classic example to teach sequence of tenses, that is simple past and past perfect. Alright, when we reached, before they could do anything, he had passed away, died. Okay? Since he had no one here, he had decided to go away. Since he had no one there, nobody to look after him. So he had decided to go away earlier. His decision came first, since there was nobody to look after him. Then God had known that Adam would eat food. That is the knowledge of God, you cannot help it. And then last is, who told you that they had left by they had left it's not the word punished. They had been punished. Here also it is passive. They had been punished by the principle. Who told you that they had been punished by the principle? The principle probably might not have punished them, but somebody also is asking, the person who is asking the question says, who told you that he had been punished by the... So that's also a tricky sentence. So be careful. Sometimes when you get, for tests and so on, you will get some tricky sentences. Remember then, there is also a passive voice. You can also complete the test frame by using passive voice. Understand that? That is relative. So this is an exercise for the first use. First use is in sequence. When you have got two actions taking place in the past, then use past perfect with the first action, and with the second action you use the simple past. Understand? See that? Is that clear to you? Now we will have half a dozen exercises like this. Tomorrow we will have use of past perfect in some other situation. Like that you will do half a dozen exercise. Then I am sure that you will be thorough with this. You will be masters of the past perfect tense. Okay. So till we meet again. Bye. Have a nice time. Hope that you are following this and you are doing these exercises, or I would suggest that you make your own test frames. That's the best thing to do. If you make your own test frames and try to answer those, try to complete those, that definitely will go deep in your mind and you will never forget it. It will be part of your life. Understand that? It will be anytime when you say past perfect. Past perfect is also a very important tense, because very often what happens, many things happens in the past. Then you have to see the sequence. Which one is the first one? Which is the second? Which is the third? Like that. So if you find that there is a first action and the many other actions follows, the first action you must definitely use the past perfect. Hope that you are following, and bye. See you again.